Random House Audio presents The House at Midnight by Lucie Whitehouse. Read for you by Kate Redding. For my parents, with love. Chapter 1. Even now I can remember the first time I saw the house as clearly as if there were a video of it playing in my head. Danny, Martha, and I had driven up from London together, the force of our collective will keeping my elderly Citroën from one of its increasingly frequent breakdowns. Cold night air had forced its way into the car around the loose window panes as I coaxed it along at speeds for which I could feel it reproaching me. I think we all had a feeling of adventure that evening, leaving the city, as so many other people had been pouring into it, going against the tide. Lucas's directions had been easy to follow until the last part. We came off the motorway and soon were lost in the maze of minor roads that laced across southern Oxfordshire. A part of me was glad. I wanted to be ready before seeing him, but the miles had disappeared too quickly. The half-hour we spent shuttling along the same dark lanes again and again had given me time to think. Finally I pulled up at the side of the road in the village we had been circling. Danny leaned forward between the seats. "This place is like the end of the world." He was right. Even for a village, Stoneborough was nothing. The cottages, 5 or 6 of them huddled together, had an empty air. Only one was showing any light, the blue wash of television seeping through the net curtain in an upstairs window. There was a pond, its edges sharp with frozen reeds, and a village green that was little more than a patch of crisp white grass. No one had been across it since the dew fell. "We can't go round again," I said. "We're going to have to ask." "Can't we call him?" said Martha. "There's no reception." Across the road was a pub called the White Swan, a squat stone building whose roof covered it like an oversized hat. The upper windows looked out slyly from underneath. On the ground floor the curtains were drawn, but a rim of yellow light was visible around them. "It's like the place doesn't want to be found," said Martha. She opened the passenger door and got out. Her usual long stride curtailed by the cocktail dress that clung tightly above her knees, she crossed the beam of the headlights and went in. The radio was too loud now that the car had stopped, so I turned it off. Danny leaned forward again. "It had better not be much further. It's gone 9. I'm dying for a drink." His breath carried an unmistakable whiskey tang. "You've been taking nips from that hip flask all the way. I've seen you in the rear view." I twisted round to look at him. The light from the pub's carriage lamp cast the planes of his face into sharp relief. He looked elfish. "It's New Year's Eve, Joanna." "Light me a cigarette, will you?" I asked. "Mine are in the boot." He rummaged around among the newspapers on the back seat and found the packet. The match flared and died. "Thanks." "Your hands are shaking." "Are they?" I held one out flat and observed my fingers in the light from the dash. "Maybe it's the thought of the big house. These things intimidate English teachers' daughters, you know." I shrugged and wound down the window to blow out the smoke. It was a policy I had developed with Danny, to reveal my weakness rather than give him the pleasure of discovering it himself. "That's one of the things I like about you. You're always so honest about your humble beginnings." He sat back and started flicking through old text messages on his mobile. "It'll be a thrill for me to be allowed above stairs." Martha came out of the pub, the heavy wooden door slamming shut behind her. "That way. About a mile on. I think we must have gone past it at least 3 times. There's no sign on the road, apparently, just a track on the left that leads into a wood." She pulled her red fake fur jacket more tightly around her shoulders. "It is so cold out here." "I thought New Yorkers were used to hard winters," said Danny. We drove on out of the village. Living in London, I had forgotten how dark it got in the country. Hedges flashed past, illuminated only by our headlights, and falling back into blackness behind us. We saw several pairs of small eyes in the undergrowth. When we'd gone about a mile, I slowed down and started to look for the driveway. We were coming into a wood. Huge trees made a skeletal tunnel over the road, their bare branches tangled and swaying eerily. I pulled slowly along the verge for a couple of minutes. "There," said Martha. "That must be it." I turned, and we started up a rough track. I had expected to be able to see the house from the foot of the drive, and squinted forward looking for lights, but there was nothing. Just an intricate mesh of leafless branches opening up in front of us and pulling tight as a net behind us as soon as we passed. I thought of those fairy tale woods where the trees sprout at supernatural speeds to ensnare those foolish enough to enter. But there were no signs of new growth here. Everything around us was dead or dormant, in the widow's weeds of winter. We fell silent, as if the looming and falling away of the branches were weaving an enchantment around us. The car made heavy work of the road. We bumped and lurched over potholes for the best part of another mile before we veered left and found ourselves on a circular gravel drive. I stopped the engine. There, in front of us, was the house. Stoneborough Manor, the Cotswold stone pile. It really was the only description, recently inherited by Lucas, my best friend. 3 stories high, it reared out of the night as if it were facing down the darkness. There were 7 windows on the 2nd and 3rd floors, all blankly reflecting the tiny sliver of moon, but light spilled out of every one on the ground floor onto the 2 small lawns in front of the house. An avenue of yews lined the long path to the door, which was sheltered by a portico on 2 smooth round columns. I felt a pang of anxiety. Lucas had described it to me pretty well, but even so the reality of it shocked me. How could it not change things between us? We unloaded our bags from the boot, and I locked the car, although who would break into it so far from civilization was anyone's guess. I held Danny's arm as we made our way up the path. The flagstones were slippery with frost, and the heels I'd just changed into didn't offer much in the way of grip. Martha rang the bell, and we heard the echo of it reaching back into the house like a whisper. For a minute or 2 there was nothing, and then the shape of a body appeared behind the stained glass panels in the door. Suddenly there he was, lit from behind, and grinning. I saw immediately that he had lost weight. "Lucas, it's incredible," I said, stepping forward. He put his arms around me and held me tightly. The collar of his dinner jacket was rough on my cheek. "Hello," he said next to my ear. He let me go and embraced Martha, then clapped Danny on the arm. "Mate, come in. Did you find it all right?" "Not without some effort," said Danny. "Fuck, it's fantastic. You kept this a secret. Why haven't I been here before?" "Well, it was Patrick's. He did his entertaining in London. He was quite private here. It was a sort of family place." We left our bags by the door. We were standing in a central hall lit only by 2 large table lamps on a wooden chest. Their light pooled onto a black and white checkered floor. Around the edges of the room were a number of marble busts on pedestals. One of them I saw was wearing our college tie. Above us, the upper floors of the house spiraled away like the inside of a snail shell, getting darker and darker as they receded upward. Our voices echoed coldly off the walls, rising away from us until they were swallowed by the body of the place. There was a strong scent of old-fashioned furniture polish. "We'll have the champagne now everyone's here." Lucas opened a door into an enormous drawing-room. There was an immediate rise in the air temperature. The room was dominated by a white marble fireplace, carved with an oak leaf and acorn design, and in the grate a fire was burning, sending up flames a foot high. Brocade curtains hung from ceiling to floor at the 3 windows, their sun-faded rubies and greens complement.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?